Today we're reacting to why did we get milk instead of water? Video by Prince Harry. Well, I think it's because the government's pushing milk and they have it everywhere. Like milk this, got milk. I don't know why they have it everywhere, but they do. I think there's something in milk. I have a conspiracy theory that they're putting something in the milk to make us dumber. But let's get in the video though.
Public school in America, the place that I have a love-hate relationship with, because it's the place that I have some of my best memories of laughter and joy with some of the people I'm still friends with to this day. However, school was also a part of some of my least favorite memories. It's also the only place where you can go to eat a greasy-ass pepperoni pizza, some tater tots made without a lick of love, a hard-to-peel orange that would have your fingers smelling like citrus for the rest of the school.
It's not that bad.
And the best part of it all is you get to wash all of that down with a carton of milk of your choice, choosing between white or chocolate milk.
Ew. I've never drinking that in my life.
And that last part always confused
What's it called? That other one?
me. Even when I was in school, I could never understand why the only drink choices was milk, especially when we could have just gotten water.
Now that I'm older, I'm genuinely wondering, why the
Bro,
was water?
We have to pay for the water. We have to pay for it. They have it on a little thing. You never get water for free. There's
Never
always
an
milk.
option. School lunches genuinely had us eating pizza with milk. What the type combination is that?
Wow. So it's all making sense now. Why them public school bathrooms used to smell like bounce that early in the morning. Yo, this is crazy. But one thing we can all agree on, if you're a public school baby, Fridays, when that pizza came out, if you had that first lunch, felt like you was eating Domino's, nigga. But chocolate milk to wash it down is insane work.
Milk Maurice, he got a pretty
Milk's not even that bad.
pink cause a nigga fell in love with it. She got
Yo,
a thing
what is this? Nah.
for me, I got
Pause.
a thing for her. Never ever let her get away from me.
So in this video, we'll figure out why public schools in America only served us milk. And I'm just talking about public schools because private schools are not the same. I went to a private school for 1 year in high school, and lunchtime was completely different. Firstly, on an unrelated note, there was zero food fights. And if you attended a bad or overcrowded public school, you know that food fights is a common thing during lunch.
Bro, just eat the food, bro. I don't want no food fight.
Where someone throws a milk carton
Nigga threw a whole pizza.
in a sea of people, and then that makes some of them kids
Imagine
want
that lands on your head. What are you doing? I'm fighting that nigga.
to get some get back, and before you know it, it's a full-blown food fight, which is also a sign of how comfortable we have gotten in America with having so much food that we wasted on things like food fights, but I'm not going to get into that. But one of the reasons there is zero food fights at private school is because you have to pay for your food. And when I say pay for food, I'm not talking like how we used to have to pay for lunch at public schools where it was only $1 and some change depending on your city, or if you was on reduced lunch, it was just a couple coins. I'm talking about when you go through the private school lunch line, you're paying real world prices, anywhere from about $8 to $12 a day for lunch depending on what you get.
For
And
that lunch, bro, there's no.
more or less depending on what city you live in. So people are not gonna throw that food and waste their money, and you can get kicked out of private school, so most kids are on their best behavior. But private school also serve different types of food, usually high
Private school, I went to a private school, their lunches are goated. They have the most cuisine lunches you ever have.
quality than
These public school lunches, they literally give you food that is literally old. It's old food. So if you have pizza on Friday and you wonder why you have pizza on Tuesday, it's because they get that old food that people didn't get and they cook it. I'm telling you, bro.
public schools because you're paying more. And this also translated into the drink options you have. So when I was
Why
at
you
private,
think there's always meat on the pizzas and stuff? Because nobody ate the meat and they went, oh, meat pizza, salad pizza. Bro, salad pizza is disgusting. Who eats a salad pizza? I seen that. It was disgusting.
school for that year, I don't remember them offering any milk. This doesn't mean they didn't, I just don't remember it because they had fountain drink machines for us. So
You niggas had fountain drinks? What? What high school did you go to?
You would just choose whatever drink you wanted like you would at a restaurant. And no one is choosing milk in that situation, even if they did offer it. But as I mentioned, private school had those options because parents are paying directly for those things and for the kids to go to those schools. And I use the words directly because public school is government funded, which means public schools have to follow the government rules and systems. But the government gets its money from taxes, which taxes are paid by the people, which includes the parents. So when you think about it, public school parents are still technically paying for their kids' school in a roundabout way, just not as direct as paying for private school tuition and lunchtime with real world prices. Because public schools get 40 to 60% of their overall funding from property tax. That is why public schools on wealthier sides of towns are nicer compared to public schools on poorer sides of towns. It's because wealthier neighborhoods have houses that have higher property values, which means they're getting taxed more on that property tax, which equals more tax revenue, which equals more funding. And on the flip side, poor neighborhoods a lot of times have houses that doesn't have as much value to them. So that means they're getting taxed less on the property value, which then means less funding to that public school. And I mentioned 40 to 60%. The rest of that public school funding to get to that 100% comes from state funding, which the state gets their money from taxes as well, like income tax and sales tax, and they distribute that funding in the same way where rich neighborhoods get more and poor neighborhoods get less. But that's beside the point, because whether it's a rich public school or a poor public school, the students are still being served milk. So that still begs the question, out of all the possible drink options we could have had with lunch, why was milk the government's choice? And to understand this, we need to go back to America in the 1940s.
You, just you, building your app on base 44. Describe it. And it's real. One thought leads to...
So, it's December 7th, 1941. And Japan decided to attack the US naval base at Pearl Harbor. And the next day, America declared war on Japan, making this the official date America entered World War II.
No matter how long it may take us to over...
This is all the news channels. NBC, CBS, NBC. Bro, where's CNN at? NBC. Nigga, bro. Who's watching NBC News? MBS, CBS. Yo, what are these channels?
Overcome this premeditated invasion. The American people in their righteous might will win through.
What's up? Hello, good sir. Fine if I send a tune. After this video.
To absolute victory.
This meant that America now needed to organize the American people in preparation for this war. And this is when America started the draft.
The Draft Lottery, a live report on tonight's picking of the birth dates for the draft,
which required all American men from the ages of 21 to 35 to sign up to fight for their country. Well, America technically started the draft a year before this attack because they had a feeling that they were going to get involved in this war in some kind of way. However, this draft revealed something shocking about the American people in the 1940s, which is that 1/3 of the men were unhealthy and unfit to even fight in this war. About 30 to 40% were ejected by the military during the draft for reasons including malnutrition, poor dental health, infectious disease, poor eyesight,
Dang.
physical deformities, underweight or underdeveloped body. They were basically Steve Rogers before getting the super soldier serum.
Wow.
And on a side note, this is loosely what the comic book Captain America was based off of, because that comic...
Couldn't they just make another Captain America? If he got all of his powers from a serum, couldn't they just make another one?
was based around this time in the 1940s, and Steve Rogers was an example of this underweight, malnutritious body that was unfit for war. And so he had to take a super soldier serum that ended up turning him into Captain America. But in the real world, these problems were widespread, popularly among poor and rural populations. And the reason for this was because many of these men grew up during the Great Depression, which was from 1929 to about 1939. And during this period, unemployment reached about 25% of Americans. Many families struggled to buy enough food. Diets lacked important nutrients like
the the Great Depression. That's when it's
calcium,
happened.
protein, and vitamins. And children
Yeah.
often ate diets heavy in bread, potatoes, cheap grains, and limited meat or dairy options. Those diets could lead to stunted growth and weaker physical development. So when America started drafting soldiers and realizing a large portion of their population wasn't physically qualified for war, it became a national security issue. Because if that trend continued, it meant America could
Don't tell me milk is the solution. No, it's not.
end up with a population too weak to defend the country. And in a world where nations compete for military power and global influence, that can cause the United States to struggle or even fall behind other countries. Therefore, this triggered major changes in public health thinking. Essentially, the government honestly could care less about the American people's health prior to this moment in time. Basically, it was their realization how it could start affecting America's power and influence on the world. So leaders concluded that child nutrition had to improve nationally, not just for health, but for national.
And milk, is milk healthy? Let's look. I'm gonna go on Google. Is milk healthy?
Milk is a nutritious drink, providing calcium, protein, and vitamin D, supporting bone health and muscle repair. It may also lower the risk of chronic diseases. However, some people experience digestive issues or acne, so it's best to consult a doctor.
Oh, so it is healthy.
Security. So, after World War II ended in 1945, a year later, the government passed the National School Lunch Act on June 4, 1946, which started the National School Lunch Program, which required all public schools to serve a meal that included a protein, a grain, fruit or vegetables, and a half pint of milk. When you think back on your school lunches, doesn't this sound pretty familiar to what was on your school tray?
Yo, this is OD, bro. Combinations here is insane. I've seen way worse combinations.
And that's because this was the moment that milk was now mandatory in school lunches. And so when I look at the requirements for the National School Lunch Program, I can understand why protein, grain, fruit, vegetables were chosen for lunch, because it just makes sense for a well-balanced meal. But why not just pair that with water? Like, what made the government choose milk to be a part of the lunch requirement? And this is where that war we just talked about, World War II, played a part again.
Is that why they're pushing Got Milk so much on ads? They want us to be fit?
Okay, great. Wait, were you even listening? You haven't taken a single note this entire meeting?
So what happened was you had that war that required millions of American men to fight for the country. About 16 million men to be exact. And all these men required food, to survive. Therefore, the government had to feed them. So the government used this money from taxes to buy food from American farmers and food producers in order to feed the military. During the war, the US government actually asked farmers to increase production. And the government did this because the food was needed for the soldiers, as mentioned, and food was also needed for allies. The US even shipped food to Europe. Programs like price guarantees, wartime farm subsidies, and production incentives encouraged farmers to expand and increase output. And included in this was the dairy farmer, because dairy was a major part of the military rations. Milk itself wasn't actually shipped fresh to soldiers overseas because it spoils quickly, so dairy processing plants turned the milk from the cows into other products that could last longer. So the military was really rocking with powdered milk, evaporated milk, butter, cheese, processed cheese, and canned dairy products. Powdered milk especially became extremely important because it lasts a long time, is light.
Ew. Who drinks powdered milk?
Wait, it can be rehydrated easily. So during this time, being a farmer was very lucrative because you had a constant demand from the government. You had the government telling you to increase your supply because the demand is so high to feed these soldiers. So farmers invested heavily in more cows, larger farms, better production technology. And the farmers did it. Dairy production was now at an all-time high. They have built an agricultural system capable of producing enormous amounts of milk and dairy products like never before.
Every day, a big truck comes to take the farm.
That's what they call the milkman? They give you milk? There used to be a job back then, right?
Farmer's milk to the milk plant. All the milk goes through a pasteurizer.
Not gonna lie. 1980s, like the glass cups, the glass stuff, it's kind of fire. Now we just got like cans, plastic stuff. We got no drip in our, what you call it? We have no drip in our drip in our like products. Our products are like bland. They're not drippy like they used to be. Like we got no swag in our products.
But then the war ended. So that military demand essentially collapsed overnight. But that dairy production was still very high because farmers had already expanded. Cows were still producing milk. Infrastructure had been built. You can't just tell a cow to stop producing milk. So suddenly the country had more milk than American people were ever buying, instantly creating a dairy market that had more supply than demand. And if you remember anything from your high school economics class, that's not a great thing for business. That situation worried policymakers because falling farm prices could collapse rural economies. And rural America was a huge part of the economy during this time. In the early 1900s and 1940s, a large percentage of Americans lived in rural areas. More specifically, roughly 40 to 60% of Americans. That means about 50 to 60 million people were living in farming or rural communities. So when farms failed, it doesn't just affect farmers. It affects feed suppliers, equipment manufacturers, trucking, food processing, rural banks, and the small town as a whole. So when farm prices crashed, the entire regions collapsed economically. The government wanted to prevent that. And this was because they had a similar experience happen some years prior where the supply was higher than the demand, and this caused issues. So to prevent this, the government had two choices. Option one, force farmers to produce less, which was very unpopular politically at the time and still today because farmers hate production limits. And it also is really hard to limit production when it comes to farming because agriculture runs on biological cycles and long-term investments that can't
Why would you want them to produce less? That means just you have less food.
Quickly turned on or off. And if I'm being honest, when I was learning about this, I was like, yeah, why didn't they just go with option one? Because if there's too much milk, why not just reduce the number of cows and sell the meat? But apparently milk cows aren't the same as meat cows because they have lower quality meat, whatever that means. But you also
I didn't know that. So milk cows are not like meant for meat. It's only meant for milk.
Can't sell them for as much because of that low quality meat, which kills
sounds bad though,
the margins or whatever. And getting a bunch of dairy farmers to just delete their cows and sell the meat would also just fuck up the beef farmers' economics. So I started to see the problem and why they went with option two, which was just to increase the demand of dairy to balance out the supply, which was much easier politically. So that's what the government chose, to basically stabilize the dairy market by creating guaranteed buyers, similar to how the military was a guaranteed buyer. This is where schools come in. So let's zoom out for a minute. So the government had two issues at this time. First issue, 1/3 of Americans were unhealthy, which became a national security issue because if the trend continued to go up, America could end up with a population too weak to defend itself in the world of global power and influence. Second issue,
how many Americans are unhealthy?
Many Americans are not considered completely healthy. Studies show that roughly 93% lack optimal metabolic health, while about 37 to 42% live with obesity, and over 13% have diagnosed diabetes.
Dang. 93%? Bro, that's dang near everybody. Yo.
Farmers had too much supply and not enough demand, which would cause agricultural prices to collapse. And when prices drop below the cost of production, farmers can't make any money to cover their expenses like feed, equipment, land payments, and labor. This would push many farms into bankruptcy, which didn't just hurt farmers, it threatened entire rural economies that depended on agriculture. So to kill two birds with one stone, they decided to pass the National School Lunch Act. And the reason milk was chosen instead of water was because it would help stabilize dairy farmers, and milk is packed with nutrients like calcium, protein, vitamin D. Providing milk in school was seen as a simple way to improve children's diets, stabilize the farming supply and demand, and address the broader national concern that the population was becoming physically weaker. And that decision from the 1940s is the reason why we have milk in public schools today.
What do we need to get you signed up to Monday.com and start getting more work done? Ooh, everyone wants AI now, right? Imagine built-in AI everywhere, actually doing the work for you.
Now, is milk being pushed in?
Well, what if you're lactose intolerant? What do you do? You just eat a bunch of chicken?
School is a good thing or a bad thing. So
Why is he playing this music? I kind of messed with it though.
it has a good side and a bad side. So the good side about milk being in schools is that it does have nutrition and it does help stabilize the dairy farmers. But the bad side of it is a few things. First, everybody can't
Bro, I can't even hear what he's saying. I can hear Kendrick talking.
drink milk, or at least shouldn't drink it because, you know, of being lactose intolerant.
You got something to drink? I got some milk. It's in the fridge. You gotta go get it.
Yeah, no, I can get some milk. Yeah, that's cool. I can go get some milk. Oh.
Yeah, bro, you good in there? You alright?
Huh? Yeah. I'm just using the bathroom.
Bro, are you lactose intolerant? Are you a grown man and can't drink milk?
A lot of people in America and in the world, if we're being honest, is lactose intolerant. Your likelihood of
How do you even get to be lactose intolerant? Are you just born with it?
being lactose intolerant actually varies a lot by your ethnicity. Around 65 to 70% of African Americans, 90% of East Asians, 70 to 80% of Native Americans, and over 50% of many Latino populations experience lactose intolerance. Meanwhile, only about 5 to 15%.
Bro, other Asians. That means is this right? That's not right. You know how much
of
percent
Europeans
is
are
95% to 100 Indians? Bro, this is dang near everybody's lactose intolerant here.
Are actually lactose intolerant because dairy has been a major part of their diet for thousands of years, which can make the whole milk carton thing difficult for kids that is lactose intolerant to deal with while in school. And lastly, this increase in
Got no bev. Lactose intolerant. Oh, you serve milk? Nah, I need some water. That's tough.
dairy production over the years, and you know, this unnatural way of getting as much milk as you can from as many cows as you can basically have created a climate control issue. Because since the 1940s, total milk production.
That's all that's that one nigga when you're eating lunch. He always says, "Hey, you got any milk? You want your milk?" Or you ask for your bread. No, he starts with asking for your milk first. Then he's like, "You want your bread?" And then he takes the bread. Then he asks your friend for bread. Then he asks for the what's it called? It's in my head. Just waiting for it. Where is it? Ranch. He asked for the ranch. Then you get the nigga the ranch. And it's like, wow.
Production in the United States has more than tripled, even though the number of dairy farms has basically decreased. And this is thanks to our capitalistic structure that has removed a lot of family dairy farms for these huge dairy farming infrastructures, which modern dairy operations
Time to watch the party
today produce far more milk per cow than farms did decades ago. But while this efficiency has helped make milk cheaper and more widely available, it also means much larger concentrations of cows in fewer places, which creates environmental issues. Because large dairy operations with all their cows generates enormous.
You think some of these cows like fight each other? They don't mess with each other? They probably have like a whole gang here. All the ops are on this block. Everybody else is opposition right here. They probably got their own cliques.
Amounts of cow manure that can pollute waterways and soil if not properly managed. And dairy cows produce methane, a powerful greenhouse gas. And methane is important because it traps heat. So when industries like large-scale dairy farming produce a lot of methane, it can contribute to global warming and climate change. And you know,
a cow can change climate change over what he produces. Bro, cows might be underrated.
Global warming matters because when the climate changes, it affects almost everything we depend on, like our food systems, weather patterns, coastlines, and
things can change the weather
systems. You know how like when wintertime comes and it feels colder than you remember, or where I'm at in the South,
because of a cow.
Summers just feel way more hot than it was than I remember being a kid. It's a reason for this. It's because climate is changing. And when climate shifts too quickly, it can disrupt those systems and create issues for both animals, nature, and even us. Just as simple as us not wanting to go outside when it's too hot. But with all that being said, this video had me down a bunch of different rabbit holes because I started off just curious about why schools gave us milk. and ended up learning about farming economics, policies, and World War II. And seeing how all those things connect, it changed my thought. Like, because I originally thought the reason milk was pushed in school was just because of lobbying efforts by dairy organizations. And if you're unaware of what lobbying is, it's basically when industries or organizations try to influence government decisions by meeting with lawmakers, funding research, running marketing campaigns, and advocating for policies that benefit their industry specifically. And I was just gonna make a whole video centered around lobbying and how it negatively affects America because it's a system
So
where
the businesses want to push them to market their brand. If you guys didn't hear what he's saying.
influence often follows money, and industries with the most money can have the loudest voices in shaping policies that allow them to make more money, which in turn can screw everyone else and create a system that we currently live in, where policies have been made for the rich while fucking over everyone else.